And I just realized I forgot to check one thing, which is in the main camera. On the main camera, you want an orthographic camera view, right? So everything looks flat instead of a perspective view where things can start to look a bit more 3D. Obviously, you can use that to your advantage as well. But for 2D games, let's set this to orthographic camera. Okay, good. Now, what I want to do next is introduce you to a few more things that we can use. Now, obviously, bringing this 2D element into the game was fairly easy, but I want to start animating the different parts on this image, and that requires a different setup. So I have this image that has all the different parts of the fish. We got the body, we get the fins, eye, eyebrow, and the tail. I added a tail. And this is going to be the image we want to use. And let me just show you why. Let's import this first. Okay, so it's here. Let's open up the preview. It looks just like the image that I just showed you. And here we want to go up to sprite mode, and we want Unity to know that this is going to be a sprite. This is going to be an image with several sprites in it. So let's click on Sprite Editor. Okay, so here is where you can slice up this image into several different parts that you can use. All right, so you click on Slice, and you can do it two ways. You can do it either a grid slice. If you do that, then these are going to be the sort of separate parts that you can use, but that's not exactly how we've set up the original image. And we'll do that in the next later on in the course, where we'll have a different setup where we want to use grid. But for now, we want to use automatic, and I think everything else is fine. I'm going to delete the existing slices because that's incorrect. And we'll just click on Slice, and you can see that Unity has found the different parts in this image that we might want to use. And if you click on each one of them, you can sort of tweak them a little bit. Right, so I'm going to rename some of these things. I'm going to rename this one fin. That would be on the left. And then this one will be fin right, and body. This is just so that we later on when we animate, we will know that where which objects are related to which image. Right. So another thing you can do is you can change the pivot point, and this sort of determines how the image will be positioned and rotated. It's similar to what we did with 3D objects. So I'm just sort of manually creating or changing some of these. I think these are okay. For this one, let's see. I'm gonna move this to, okay, there we go. Okay, so I've got everything set up properly, I think. I changed the to that point. Okay, hit apply. So all the changes are applied. Close this. Now you can see that instead of just having one sprite, now we have several of these components. Okay. So let me just disable this one. So that was our original fish. Now we have this fish part. That's drag the body in and then start reconstructing this fish. Now let me show you what happens if you just drag this thing in. You can't actually do that. It basically just grabs the very first component and the very first object, and that's not what you want. So another thing you might try to do is you might grab all of them and then drag them in. what this end up doing is it will try to create an animation from all these different images, and we'll use that a little bit later. But for now, we kind of have to just sort of reconstruct them, this fish, from these different parts. Okay, so I'm just going to drag them all onto the scene. Okay, and then sort of move them around a little bit, and I'm going to turn off wireframe. Okay, so they're in roughly the right positions, but you can see that some of them are supposed to be behind the others, and it's not the optimal setup right now in terms of which image should go on top of the other. And the way we sort these different images is by creating a sorting layer, and then we'll tell Unity which one should be on top of the others, right? So let's go to sorting layer, and you can either use the default, but I kind of like having a new one just so that we know which one is being used for different objects. So go back to all these different parts, and then let's just go fish, body. Let's keep body at 0, and I think I want this to go on top of it. So the higher the number in the layer, in the order in layer, it's going to go on top of the images that's got a lower number. So if I change this to 2, you can see that the body is now on top of the eye. So I'm going to go back. So that's 0. The eyebrow, it's also going to be on the sort of 1. Actually, it's going to be 2. Oh, I have to make sure that this is the right layer. The fin on the left, let's put this to -1. It's going to be behind the body. And the one on the right is going to be, let's put in the layer 2. And tail, I'm going to keep it at 0. So I think tail and body should, I think it's fine if they're in the same, have the same order. Okay, let's quickly save the scene. Okay, so now we have all these different parts on the screen. Let me just sort of reposition them a little bit more. Okay, and also I want to make this a little bit bigger, just so that we can see it a little bit better. We might change that back in a bit, but the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that they're all the same object so we can animate them better. So what I want to do is I'm just going to grab everything except for body, because I've decided that's going to be my parent object. I'm just going to grab these in. So now that's my fish. See, that's my new fish. Rotate it. And the reason why we want to do this instead of having this thing here is obviously, outside of having that tail, is now we can go in and we can actually animate different parts on this fish.